Good evening, I'm Grace Brown in Hong Kong and welcome to View TV News. Coming up on tonight's show. A star tutor is arrested for allegedly bribing his former student in return for public exam questions. Hong Kong sees its lowest crime rate in decades, but data shows a surge of phone and online scams. Plus, Hong Kong fathers-to-be are denied an extra 4 days paternity leave. But how badly does the city's attitude to new dads compare? Thank you for joining us. The ICAC have arrested a star tutor from Modern Education and his 19-year-old former student for bribery and leaking public exam questions. 43-year-old Lau Kun Wah, also known as Chris Lau, is accused of paying Seraph Wong $1,000 for questions in the English paper of last year's HKDSE exam. Wong was working as a marking assistant at the Hong Kong Examinations and Assessments Authority at the time, with easy access to the materials. The pair now face a joint charge of accepting an advantage and 1 count of access to a computer with dishonest intent. Just last month, another celebrity Chinese tutor, Wesley Xiao, and his wife were also charged with leaking exam questions. A man and woman were found lying dead in a Hong Kong apartment. Police have launched an investigation. The bodies were discovered inside a flat at the housing estate Chatham Gate. Initial reports suggest the unit had been occupied by the flat owner's 40-year-old son. The owner had failed to reach his son for days and therefore made a trip there, only to find out he was lying in the living room with his wrist wounded. A woman in her 30s, meanwhile, was found unconscious in a room. They were pronounced dead when paramedics rushed to the scene. The owner, on its part, said he didn't know the woman personally. According to police data out Wednesday, crime in Hong Kong is at its lowest level in 4 decades. There are only about 26,000 cases in the first 6 months of the year, the lowest level since 1977. But while the streets may be safe, the city's cyberspace is far less so. Hong Kong saw a shocking surge in the number of people falling victim to online and phone scams. Police reported 272 cases of online romance scams in the first half of 2018, 2.5 times what was recorded the same time last year. Victims in those cases were conned out of a total $137 million. There are also 90 cases of investment scams involving more than $530 million. Police also responded to the impending ban on the Hong Kong National Party. Law enforcement earlier issued a 800-page statement calling on the pro-independence group to halt operations, saying it posed an imminent threat to national security. When asked about the move, officers wouldn't comment on whether the police have become a political tool for the government.
We have the responsibility and functions under the law that in carrying out our duties, we have the responsibility to follow up if we find that any individual or society may have contravened the law. So in respect of each case, we will handle it impartially and in accordance with legal provisions and evidence gathered, and based on the legal provisions without any bias.
Future fathers in Hong Kong will have to resign themselves to being at the bottom of the international pile when it comes to taking time off for having children. Lawmakers today have shot down proposals to increase statutory paternity leave from 3 days to 7. That could yet get an extra 2 days, but as Lydia Sung explains, it will still leave them a long way off their Japanese and South Korean peers.
Lawmakers on this Bills Committee are still debating how much leave fathers should be granted for a new life into their families. The current government proposal will extend paternity leave from 3 to 5 days. But several pro-democracy lawmakers, including Fernando Zheng and Leung Yiu-chung, think they need a full 7 days instead.
It wouldn't affect employers too much. For sure there will be some sort of impact, but it's not huge. Also, people nowadays usually only give birth to 1 or 2 kids. How many times does one get to enjoy paternity leave throughout his life?
This proposal has already taken into consideration employers' ability in providing such leave. 5 days was a plan agreed by both Labour and employer reps on the Labour Advisory Board. It wasn't easy to reach a consensus, so the government will uphold and respect it.
Lawmakers also proposed other amendments to the bill, which include paying employees in full during their paternity leave. The government, on its part, said it needs time to review those suggestions. 2 more days of paternity leave would certainly be good news for Hong Kong's future dads. But back in June, when the government put forward the increase to LegCo, lawmakers already slammed the amendments as conservative and lagging behind international standards. Now, to put it in perspective, men in Singapore get up to 2 weeks of government paid leave. Dads in countries such as the UK and Australia, meanwhile, also get 2 weeks. Japan and South Korea, though, lead the international standings. New dads there can take a full 52 weeks off unpaid leave, according to the OECD. Lydia Song, ViuTV News.
Well, turning to other local news now, and Hong Kong Airlines have today changed references on their websites to Taiwan. That's in order to comply with demands from Beijing, which claims the island state as part of Greater China. All commercial airlines here, including Cathay Pacific, now refer to Taiwan, China. China's Civil Aviation Authority had sent letters to 44 international airlines in April, in which they demanded they take out references to Taiwan, Macau and Hong Kong as independent regions. Major US airlines have also now acceded to those demands. Documents from the National Archives in London that have been declassified this month have revealed that before the 1997 handover, Britain had pressured Portugal not to grant nationality to residents in colonial Macau. That's because they were afraid Hong Kongers might ask for the same treatment. The British Home Secretary at the time, Douglas Hurd, apparently warned his colleagues that Macanese residents who were granted Portuguese passports would be able to live and work in the European community. He appeared concerned that Hong Kongers might try to obtain Portuguese passports to enter the UK. He also insisted that Britain must not bow down to pressure to allow Hong Kongers freer access to the UK. Britain later granted only 50,000 Hong Kong families residency rights. Well, for more on this issue, earlier I spoke to Craig Choi, an advocate for rights for BNO passport holders in Hong Kong. I asked him whether it's still worth fighting for the right of abode in the UK after more than 20 years since the handover.
Under the Joint Declaration, they still have a moral obligation and a legal obligation towards Hong Kong people, and that's why what they have done before actually it still matters to us. This time, after the umbrella movement, and a lot of Hong Kongers try to fight for democracy, defend our freedom, but apparently it is, I would say that it's not a great success. That's why I think it is time that we should fight for our right to abode, and that is we should have.
Well, the news came this week as hundreds of workers in London's Chinatown went on strike yesterday, staging a walkout over recent immigration raids. The community says they're being unfairly targeted in what they say are fishing expeditions and are marching to the Home Office in protest. Our reporter Katie Gregory has the latest from the British capital.
Well, at midday here in London's Chinatown, the whistles sounded and workers and business owners shut their shops. Now, they're walking out for 5 hours today. They're going to gather here behind me, as you can see, they are now, and then they're going to walk the 2 kilometres to the Home Office at Westminster. Now, they are protesting over what they're calling the increasingly heavy-handed tactics of immigration officers during recent raids here. Now, they're saying that that is damaging the image of Chinatown. This all came to a head earlier this month when an older woman stopped an immigration van. She stood in front of it, and that ended up in a standoff with officers. Now, we have already had a little bit of drama here at the gathering, but mostly this is a peaceful protest. They are standing up for their rights and what they see as their rights. Now, we spoke to protest organiser Joseph Wu a little bit earlier, and he told us exactly what's at stake here.
With the new immigration changes, the tightening of the law and the aggressiveness strictness of immigration operation, it just makes it so difficult to continue to trade here. And I worry because we need new investor coming in to keep the area continue to grow, and we need customer coming in. And the kind of image that was portrayed in that incident is not the kind of image that we are accustomed to. We are used to working closely and friendly with the authority, with the police. That's why we are here to talk to the Home Office in the loudest noise to ask them to change their behavior, to change the law.
Now, this isn't a new issue for Chinatown. Businesses here have been issued very large fines before, and there was a similar protest carried out here like this in 2013. Now, the London Chinatown Chinese Association is saying it wants to work with the Home Office on this, but the department is saying that it doesn't use heavy-handed tactics, that these are not fishing expeditions, these raids, and that they are intelligence-led. Overall, though, this just adds to the challenges facing Chinatown here in London. They have been hit by high business rates. They're also struggling to encourage staff, to hire staff, to hire chefs in particular for some of the restaurants here. So they're hoping that today they will resolve at least one of the issues facing the long-term security of Chinatown here in London.
Time now for a short break. We'll be right back.
This week on Theatre 96.
Part of the bullet inside the eyes.
With the power of education.
Every child will have an opportunity to an education.
Then let us empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge.
Finding the real solution for Afghanistan.
We must absolutely change our system.
Nobody would fight if they get paid, have their child educated. Why would someone fight?
A tribute to those who are building a brighter future in the country.
Don't give up.
And so this is our chance, whether we make it or break it.
Generation A, Sunday night at 9:30 on View TV6, Theatre 96.
Help us save the Oasis.
Are you willing to fight? Rent and watch right away with Now TV set-top box. Tune into channel 106 and check out what's hot on Now Video Express. Or call our service hotline for details. Take a trip to the land down under. Behind every native animal surviving in the wild.
Can we talk about this?
Or the furry babies living in different households.
This is a massive open gash. I don't think at positioning it's too bad.
There's a dedicated veterinary team.
That's just such a good result.
Because animal lives matter.
Look after my girl.
Thank you so much.
Bondi Vet. Friday, Saturday and Sunday night at 8 on View TV6. Wrestling fever explodes on View TV6 as we bring you action from the WWE Raw. Catch the stars, the drama, the thrills and the spills.
What is going on?
A new episode every week. The WWE Raw. Friday at 12 midnight on Channel 96 View TV6. One of America's most loved TV sitcoms in the history of television.
Alex, I love you!
What's happening here?
Come with me.
Sorry, I can't do this.
Created by the Avengers films mastermind, the Russo brothers.
Great news. We are back together. Here we go again.
Another double bloody.
The gang has whatever it takes to keep the good times rolling.
Let's go, ladies. It's time to blast our boots.
Best night ever.
A comedy about lovers.
Did she say the sex was bad?
Every relationship.
And friends.
None of us has made a new friend in like 11 years.
Happy endings. Saturday night at 9 on Channel 96 View TV6.
Welcome back. More local news now. Rescue teams are looking for a paraglider who's been missing for 3 days. They've expanded the search area after the man's phone signal disappeared. The search area now covers outlying islands east and south of Pak Kung Au, where the missing man, Patrick Chung, set off on Sunday. The Hong Kong Paragliding Association said the signals Chung's phone sent are gone as it may have run out of battery. They couldn't confirm whether Chung is still with his phone. The association earlier said low visibility has made the search operation difficult. It's also urging anyone who may have spotted his tri-colour paraglider and orange spare parachute to contact police. Taxi drivers in the city are facing calls from lawmakers for even harsher punishments for bad behaviour after the government proposed a new strict rules last week. Lawmakers, including Pan-Democrat Lam Chuk Ting, who sits on the LegCo Transport panel, said new penalties must be a deterrent to those who break the law. Transport Secretary Frank Chan today said legislation needs to be reasonable and consider the impact tough penalties would have on taxi drivers' lives. Under current plans, drivers who overcharge and refuse to take passengers will get demerit points and could result in licence suspensions. The government has also agreed with installing cameras on taxis, but won't yet make it mandatory due to concerns over privacy.
Why should we give those drivers a second chance when they lie to the customers for hundreds or even thousands of dollars? These drivers are not professional by doing this.
Let's catch up now with what's been happening in business news. We start with money in Hong Kong. New notes coming out later this year are stirring opinion after their announcement yesterday. Some have suggested that the new $100 notes from Bank of China look like Joss money. The bank and their designers, though, have welcomed debate and said when people see the real notes, they won't feel that way. It's the first time Hong Kong's monetary authority has standardized designs for all three issuing banks. The HSBC team said it's good to have a common theme, as the banknotes are also promoting Hong Kong. Well, turning to stock markets, and it was a choppy day for investors here. The Hang Seng ended the day 0.9% lower to finish at 28,920 points. Consumer goods dragged on the benchmark today, but there were big gains for Macau's casino operators. On the mainland, the Shanghai Composite Index ended flat, closing slightly down at 2,904 points. Trade-sensitive tech stocks slumped, while pharmaceuticals rebounded after prosecutors began to probe into recent illegal vaccines. Well, on the trade war front, U.S. President Donald Trump has caused a storm at home. That's after his administration said it would provide up to $12 billion in aid for U.S. farmers. The White House wants to shield them from the repercussions of the fallout with China, the European Union, and others. Jonah Green has more.
On the same day that President Trump tweeted tariffs are the greatest, his administration announced $12 billion in aid for farmers and ranchers hit hardest by his trade tactics. Agricultural states, many of whom backed Trump in his 2016 bid, have suffered from retaliatory measures from China, the European Union, and others reacting to Trump's trade war. At a speech in Kansas City, Missouri Tuesday, the president tried to quell concerns.
And the farmers will be the biggest beneficiary. Watch. We're opening up markets. You watch what's going to happen. Just be a little patient.
But proposing federal subsidies for farmers is likely to place congressional Republicans, who typically resist government assistance programs, in a tough spot. Some were quick to pounce. Republican Senator Ben Sasse said, "This trade war is cutting the legs out from under farmers, and the White House's plan is to spend $12 billion on gold crutches." Senator Rand Paul tweeted, quote, "If tariffs punish farmers, the answer is not welfare for farmers. The answer is remove the tariffs." Democratic Representative Jackie Speer of California, a major agricultural state, tweeted, "Okay, POTUS, you created this mess with your trade war, and now you are going to spend $12 billion to placate the farmers that voted for you." The programs, which include direct payments to farmers, trade promotion, and food purchases, do not need congressional approval. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue said the programs were a short-term solution to give President Trump time to negotiate trade deals.
Turning to international news now, rescue teams in southern Laos are tonight continuing their desperate search for hundreds of missing people. That's after a dam collapsed yesterday and submerged at least 7 villages there. State media has been showing pictures of areas where buildings had been washed away. People were seen on makeshift boats, while others, including young children, were stranded on the roofs of submerged houses. Reports today said that South Korean company that helped to build the dam had dispatched a crisis team to the area to help. There are serious concerns that the remoteness of the affected area could hamper relief operations in one of Asia's poorest countries. Greece's Prime Minister has described wildfires in the country that have killed at least 74 people there as an unspeakable tragedy. An inferno is still scorching its way through a sleepy resort area near the capital, Athens, trapping people in their cars and on the edge of cliffs. Some have even been forced to jump off those to survive. Scores of gutted cars currently line streets melted by the intensity of the heat. Reports say bodies are lying on roadsides. In one area, a group of 26 people were found dead, some locked in an embrace as the flames closed in. Emergency services said they expect the death toll to rise.
Now it is still the time for mobilisation and for fighting. A fight to save what can be saved. A fight to defeat the fire. A fight to find the missing so that we don't mourn any more lives and we may soothe the pain of those affected.
At least 31 people have been killed in an explosion at a polling station in the Pakistani city of Quetta during the country's general election. Islamic State has claimed responsibility. Polls have now closed there with no clear lead. It's a knife-edge race between cricket hero Imran Khan against the party of jailed ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Results are expected overnight, but it's possible neither will win a majority, potentially forcing a coalition. Grace Lee has the latest.
A blast in the Pakistani city of Quetta has killed at least 24 people near a polling station. It came shortly after the country began voting in a cliffhanger election on Wednesday. The explosion was claimed by Islamic State. They say it was carried out by a suicide bomber. The election is the most controversial in Pakistan in years. At the forefront, cricket hero Imran Khan and the party of jailed ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. But the election itself has been largely overshadowed by startling allegations against the country's military. It's being accused of trying to tilt the race in Khan's favor. Reuters' Drazen Yorgic is in Islamabad.
The current election has brought to the fore, once again, the historic fault line in Pakistani politics, and that is the civil-military discord and the relationship between those two sides. This is something that has bedeviled Pakistani politics since inception in 1947, and analysts say that this is perhaps the worst it's been, certainly in a decade, in terms of military interference.
The race will likely come down to Punjab, the country's most populous province, where Sharif's party has been clinging to its lead.
Time for sports. Starting with football, and Barcelona have swooped in to sign Brazilian forward Malcolm for $47 million. The announcement comes just a day after Roma said they were on the verge of signing him. The 21-year-old was set to join the Italians this week after they struck a deal with Bordeaux, reportedly worth $46 million. But Barca's 11th-hour offer reportedly changed Malcolm's mind, and the Brazilian has now agreed to a 5-year contract at the Camp Nou. Malcolm, who can play as a winger or attacking midfielder, will undergo a medical today and then join Barcelona's US tour. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has given his support to Arsenal star Mesut Ozil in the wake of the furor surrounding his international retirement, and says the racist attitude towards the player has been unacceptable. Erdogan says he spoke to Ozil on Monday night and that the player's critics could not stomach his photograph with the footballer. Meanwhile, Ozil's ancestral Turkish town have put up a new street sign showing that very picture, one that brought widespread criticism and eventually prompted the player to quit his national team. The sign marking Mesut Ozil Avenue replaced the old sign picturing him wearing the German national team shirt. To cycling's Tour de France, where Tuesday's stage 16 descended into chaos with several riders needing medical treatment after being sprayed by tear gas. A protest by local farmers brought stage 16 to a halt as bales of hay were thrown onto the road. Police used tear gas to disperse the protesters, but it ended up blowing in the face of riders, including yellow jersey holder Geraint Thomas and world champion Peter Sagan. The race continued after a brief hiatus. Frenchman Julien Alaphilippe won the eventful stage, while Britain's Adam Yates crashed late while leading. That's all for now. Make sure you join us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for all the stories shaping your world. I'm Grace Brown, and this is View TV News.
Coming up next, Survivor Man Season 5.
We enrage. We envy. We resent. We dislike.
We breathe, we laugh, we cry, we live.
We disappoint, we frustrate, we bore, we suffer.
We fear, we doubt, we defeat, we empower.
We communicate.
We talk.
We listen.
We learn.
We care. Jazzing up.
Touching hearts.
Paying attention.
Seemingly distant.
Deeply connected.
Riders faced another day of tough climbs as the 181-kilometre route began in Millau before finishing in Carcassonne. It was clear from early in the day that the peloton was content for a 29-man breakaway to contest stage honours, as world champion Peter Sagan took third place in the day's intermediate sprint to ensure he now simply needs to reach Paris to win the points classification for a sixth time, mathematically unable to be caught with a week of the Tour to spare. As the breakaway group began to splinter on the imposing climb of the Pic du Nord, Sagan's Bora Hansgrohe teammate Rafael Majka tried to get away but was reeled in by the summit, allowing Magnus Cort Nielsen, John Izagirre and Bauke Mollema to contest victory. In a sprint finish, Astana rider Nielsen edged out his rivals to give his team back-to-back victories and claim his first Tour de France stage win. The peloton crossed the line some 13 minutes later, with Thomas and Froome present, along with Team Sunweb's Tom Dumoulin, to ensure there was no change at the top of the general classification